right. Make sure the editing is settling. Nothing in the eye like
Wipe
things.
out your eyes.
All good. We doing all right. How are we doing, guys? How are we doing? How are we doing? Just
Yeah.
making sure everything good, making sure everything good for the camera, how things are.
I
Doing
know you're
good.
Doing all
ready,
right?
man. We know
You
you're
ready?
ready.
All right, that's good. All right,
Yeah.
hey everybody, how we doing? Welcome to another edition of the Living Room, an extremely special edition of the Living Room. I even got a shirt with a collar today, so that would tell
Wow.
you. But thanks everyone for joining us. If this is your first time that you're joining us, you're here on We Global. Follow us here on Facebook. Like us as well on YouTube. We're on Twitter. We're on Instagram. Please do that. Follow us right across all of our social media platforms so that you get up-to-date information from us every single day. Welcome. This is The Living Room. I'm your co-host, Andre, with my good friends, Philip and Mark. As usual, we come together every Sunday here at 3 o'clock Eastern Caribbean time, 2 o'clock if you're in Pacific in Jamaica. In the UK, so 8 o'clock here in the UK, and we just love to have good old Caribbean conversations, and we just bring in the region together one conversation at a time. That's how we do it. So welcome. Also, hit share. Make sure you bring all your network into this conversation today, because I got a feeling it's going to be one for the ages. How we doing, guys?
One for the ages, man.
Doing well.
You know the people will say, "Juan Phil, emote sweet, man. Emote sweet."
Sweet smoke.
You know how it is. I see the comments are already going crazy already, but I think they already know the guests we have in, so everyone already making sure they get the seat
It's
early.
significant, man.
Yeah, man. People pulling up a chair. I see Valerie there says she's using her data. She ain't got any electricity, but she's locked on.
She locked on. Oh, thank you there, Valerie. Thank you. So what you guys get to this week?
This week.
It
You go, Mark. Let me hear from you. I always have something going on.
I was alright, but I get wiped out later in the week, man. I felt as though I was coming down something Thursday. Man. I was in the couch all day, but I couldn't move. Just the usual seasonal cold that just hit me this time of the year.
You did a lateral flow test.
Yeah, of course. Straight away, man. Let me make sure I know what's going on here, boy.
All negative?
Yeah.
Okay, just checking.
So what you took to sort you out?
Man, I was on one of your specials, a little ginger and some garlic and some lemon, and you know this stuff, man. You know this stuff.
I definitely know it. Yeah, good.
None of that lipstick stuff.
No,
it was actually it was quite good actually.
Hey, Ayon, how you doing? Eunice, I saw you as well. How you doing?
Yeah, man.
You chop up a little bit of orange and lemon inside of it as well.
Yeah.
Nice.
Hey, Brenda.
Nice.
Yeah, it was good stuff, man. It was good stuff. But I felt better by Saturday. But that knocked me out this week, man.
Okay.
You know how it goes.
That's good that you're doing all right. Good that you're doing all right.
And what about you, Phil?
Well, what I did this week? This week was a really, really varied week. I do enjoy where I work.
I hope so.
It just gives me a lot of opportunity to do different things. So I had one meeting that was about technology strategy. And then next meeting I was in was a collection of poets.
Hey, listen to you.
Just writing. So we're being commissioned to write a piece for Black History Month. So I'm quite looking forward to what we come up with.
To you, man.
In the next few weeks.
All right. Something good.
So that was fun.
This week as well, we happen to be featured on the link in Barbados on CBC.
Oh yes, of course.
And I just want to thank everybody who followed us there, because a whole army of our fans and regular watchers were over there. I think CBC was wondering what was going on with their comments, because the comments were crazy.
Michael coming back. Michael coming back.
Oh, you there, Michael. Michael was there as well. But look, thank you guys for following us there and for just being part of that moment for us. It was a really good moment for the guys to feature the show in Barbados. So thank you for that as well, for coming over and watching. How you doing, Marika?
That was
shout
awesome,
out to Peter Allen if she's on watching.
Yeah. Peter, if you watch
indeed, if she's on, and everyone from CBC Barbados, thank you for that.
Yeah,
thank you. For
wonderful moment. Moment.
Yeah, it was a good moment. Yeah, I mean that was a highlight for me this week, But for me, it was just normal work. Girls at school, the usual things getting back to normal, and we still. Oh, and by the way, I find some petrol this week. So I had to go and queue.
It's one of the few.
I had to go and queue. It didn't take too long. It made me queue like a good British boy. I had to go and get in line.
Line up.
And It was about 20 minutes or so waiting because, we got these issues here, with, as I said, the perfect storm with COVID and Brexit and everything. Really, the whole supply chain for petrol has just gone crazy here in the UK. So getting petrol in order to fill up your cars is becoming a bit of a hard thing to do at the moment.
A man tell me, right, at a gas station, he see people come with garbage bags.
Man, no, I don't believe that. I see some...
I don't believe that. And then that say he looked around, he pulled a garbage bag.
Listen, as hard as that is to believe, I would not doubt it.
No, man, I can't go with that.
Anything is possible in this place.
Yeah, man.
I don't believe that.
Man said, I come for a garbage bag of petrol.
Fair enough.
Someone said ads for truck drivers circulating there too. Oh, okay. Thanks for
that's
letting
good
us know
news.
that. But I think
good.
they're looking to bring in a whole bunch of people from Eastern Europe and different places in order to drive the trucks. I think the army is out from Monday.
Yeah, man.
Driving petrol trucks, trying to ensure that the forecourts and stuff get refilled and replenished because they just don't want to drive them. And
they have a little bit of a dilemma though, because what they're trying to do is they're trying to make price sort of the salary. They're hiking the salary for the newcomers. They haven't done that for the existing drivers.
Yeah.
Oh,
so
the
existing
drivers are salaries that for the new drivers, they're keeping the older drivers on the same salary that they are?
Yeah.
But that can't work.
That's not the beer protest. Beer protest coming here.
That can't work. That can't work at all.
Anyhow.
Thank you. Thank you, Valerie. Valerie, get me in trouble.
Thank you.
Oh Lord! Keep that comment up there. Wow!
With the teddy bear.
Look, let me get Harvey show, boy, because that got trouble all over it.
Today is an extremely special day for us here in the living room. When we started the show just over a year ago, to have these Caribbean conversations, it was always one of our things that we talk about. I wonder if. And we always say that all the time. I wonder if, and then we just have the audacity to ask a few people and do some things to always try some things that are different. And we did the same thing when we look at our legends. And we said our legends should be honored by us and we should bring them in and hear their stories, from their perspective, but also from our perspective of how we engage with them. And we shouldn't necessarily be waiting for BBC and NBC and all these different people extra regional to come and tell us about our stories through their own lens. And so the same thing we thought about when we looked at our leaders across the region. And we wanted to say, what if we can have our leaders in to have a good Caribbean conversation? Nothing about policy, nothing about their local elections or anything like that. So if that's what you're looking for today, you're in the wrong place. We just having a good Caribbean conversation with one of our leaders, understanding, where they come from. What are their philosophical underpinnings? Just learning about them, and in so doing, educating the rest of the Caribbean about them, our leaders. And that's what we want to do this evening. So I think it's important that we do that.
Absolutely. And it is good that we are able to do this here at We Global, because we need to kind of engender that closeness as a Caribbean people, and get to understand our leaders away from the political platform sometimes, and understand what makes them tick and drive them on. Yeah. That's great.
And beyond that, the term leadership is is a big term in corporate circles as well. At the moment, there's so many different courses and articles on leadership. Why not learn from those who lead the Caribbean as well? Absolutely. Certainly, we have a lot to bring to that conversation. So definitely looking forward to this evening.
100%. And if you can't tell, me, I get nervous at these things all the time. Because sometimes, as you say, we get the audacity to do something, and then when it happens, you go like, oh, whoa. And for us, it's an absolute pleasure and honor to have one of the stalwarts of Caribbean leadership, Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Dr. Ralph Gonsalves. It's amazing to have him in the show. And, guys, if you got questions, put your questions, say hello, say which country you come from, so that, Dr. Gonsalves know that this is not just three Bajan boys having a show. This is the Caribbean. This is the Caribbean in here today. Everybody. So put out your flag, let everyone know which country you're coming from and what's not. So, look, without any further ado, let's welcome Dr. Gonsalves in.
Good day. Good afternoon.
Good evening.
Sir,
good evening and good afternoon to you.
What's the time now in England? It's good night.
It is
8:17.
Yes.
What time is it in England now?
Dark outside. Just
8
gone
o'clock.
8:17.
8:17. Okay.
Yes. So that's the time here now.
And you
How are you,
got some petrol.
The little things we take for granted sometimes. No, we can't get petrol here at all, man. You queue for hours to get a little 10 pounds or so in your car.
I'm glad to be here with you.
No, it's an honor. It's an absolute
honor
to welcome you. How's your Sunday, by the way? How's your Sunday been, man?
I got up this morning pretty early. I did some work. I did some writing.
Aye.
Oh.
And then I listened to a talk show and participated in it.
Okay.
And then this afternoon I got something to eat from my security team.
What was cooking this afternoon, man? You can't just say that.
What happened is this. Eloise, my wife has a few friends, and they went out yesterday in the countryside, not too far from where I was born. She's built a house for me up in the bush. I love the bush. Next to a stream, and I always tell people I live up there like a Rasta man, but with internet. and surrounded by trees, nature. It's beautiful.
Yes.
I love the countryside. So that the staff here at the official residence cooked for me at lunch. The security team, they have two houses in the compound where the Prime Minister resides, and they cooked today callaloo with cattle head and cattle foot and ground provisions.
Hey, that's strong stuff, man.
Coconut milk in it. Real country stuff.
That's a feast right there, man.
Real local stuff. Soup, callaloo soup.
Callaloo soup
with cattle head and cattle foot.
Any dumplings in there as well?
Yeah, but I'm not a dumplings man, so they gave me.
What?
I'm not a dumpling man. I like the dumpling if it has the coconut in it. Okay. But if it's just flour alone.
Yeah.
Okay. And I like it to knead it tight, so that
I don't make it hard.
To come very soft on my mouth. So you know how it is done in the countryside. Any of you guys from the countryside in Barbados?
Now you got two country guys here. You fell in the blue shirt from town.
Well, you from the country, Andre.
St. Philip, say.
Well, St. Philip ain't no country now, man. St. Philip is almost come. I thought you might tell me you're from St. Andrew or like Quinata. You're from St. Peter or St. Lucia or somewhere like that.
That is proper country.
Now you're trying to say that we're really from the country.
Sir, you put acid on me a St. Philip person if you say St. Philip is down. St. Philip is down. St. Philip is down.
You're from above 6 roads.
Yes,
exactly.
man.
Right up there, 6 roads. Yeah, Mangrove, 6 roads. Going on there.
I know the place well. You know, I taught at the University of West Indies for 3 years.
Okay.
In Barbados, between 1976 and 79. You guys are not born yet.
Okay.
Thanks for the compliment, man. I appreciate that.
I was transferred from the University of West Indies in Jamaica, Mona, Jamaica, where I was teaching for a little while. So I know Barbados. I love Barbados. Of course, I love every Caribbean country.
Of course.
Yeah.
But Barbados is an amazing society. Very progressive. A lot of people often think of Barbados as conservative, and
I certainly do.
There is a certain starched Anglicanism in some respects. But the idea of Barbados is an idea which transcends the landscape and seascape of the country. It includes that, but it transcends it. It's all indivisible, and it's difficult to put your hand on it. I've tried to put my hand on it. I know Barbados is not a brand, it's an idea.
I like it.
What's the difference between a brand and an idea?
I actually wrote a piece called "The Idea of Barbados." You can probably pull it up. It was published in Barbados today. I didn't give them, but they got it and they published it some years ago.
What year was that? When did you publish that? What year was that?
Ooh, this was maybe when Frondell was Prime Minister. During the time of Frondell.
Okay.
In fact, I discussed it with Frondell. Must have been around 2014.
2014. Yes.
Around that time. Because we were traveling together to Havana to attend a CELAC Heads of Government meeting, the Community of States of Latin America and the Caribbean. And I was discussing with him my own view. We spent was 4 hours going up to Havana from down in the Eastern Caribbean, and we spent all the time together talking. All the Barbadian prime ministers whom I was served at the time when I served, that means Oinata, David Thompson, Frondell, and of course Mia. All of them are my friends. Well, Wayne and I played dominoes together. David and I talked other things. Frondell was very philosophical. And of course, Mia is a bundle of activist energy with many ideas.
Indeed. This is interesting. We got to come back to that Barbados.
All of them I love very much. All of them are tremendous personalities of merit and worth.
Yes. Well, listen, you mentioned something there earlier about you liking the bush and growing up in the countryside. Tell us a little bit about young Ralph growing up in the countryside. We would love to hear about that, man.
I was my mother finished primary school. My father didn't.
Right.
Okay.
My father left primary school in what it used to be called Standard 3. He was 10, 11 years old. And he went to work on a nearby plantation.
Right.
Where his father was an overseer, supervisor. And my mom finished primary school. And I was born in the country. I'm the fourth of 10 children.
Wow.
Okay.
And they're good Catholics. And I grew up, there was no pipe-borne water, no electricity.
Wow.
Fortunately, in my village, a village called Connery, there's a river, beautiful river. So we used to bathe there. We washed in the river. There was a standpipe. We used the old Tilly lamps. It's a hall and chamber house. They were small farmers, small shopkeepers, and they grew over the years, and all the children contributed to them growing. I used to be in the shop on the farm. So I have a lot of those experiences, and they grew quite well. But I was born in the back room of the downstairs of a place where in 1946 my father had by then been working on Connery Estate as a watchman. And the watchman had a 2-room house given to him by the estate.
Okay.
And my mom had by then 3 children. And I was told that, well, she was pregnant with me. And my father transgressed by allowing some persons to go up big yard to pick mangoes. There was a place, an orchard there for the planter. and he gave people some of the fruits, and he allowed some workers, small farmers, to cut grass on the grass range.
All right.
And these at that time they were in the 40s, in the 50s. Those were important things because there were animals to be fed. So he was dismissed summarily and was put out of the house.
Oh, wow.
And so somebody, a Mr. Allen from Diamond Village, not too far away, who had a house in Connery, gave him lodging downstairs.
Oh, okay.
So that's where I was born. I went to school in Connery. I went to school there. Well, for all my years, from 5 to 12, I went to school barefooted, but we never had any shoes. We used to wear some things called soft mash. It's a kind of canvas, white canvas shoe. When you put the white polish on it, when the bishop came by, which was very infrequently, you'll put it on. Otherwise, you'll go to church barefooted. And that's how it was. There was the first radio that came in our village would have been about 1958. Mr. Latham had gone to Curacao or Aruba, and he had come back with either a Pi or a Philips radio, a Dutch model. And then my father by then his shop had gotten larger and his business was prospering more. He used to trade also with Trinidad, do what they call trafficking in agricultural produce and animals, which as a boy I used to help with. And my father bought a Grundig, which is a German model. Those radios with the big tubes.
I know Grenadines. Yes, I know Grenadines.
The big tubes.
Yeah. One in our house too.
And I remember the first cricket games I listened on the Grundig. Well, when England toured the West Indies in 1959, and I was so interested in cricket, I used to keep scores myself.
Wow.
I remember distinctly when Gary Sobers made 226 at Kensington Oval in that test series, and Worrell made 197 not out. Worrell crawled. It looked as though he didn't want to make the double century. People said
took his time.
People said that that was his way of protesting that Jerry Alexander was the captain.
Right.
and not him. Because in those days, remember, Worrell became the first black man to captain West Indies cricket team on a touring side. He then went to Australia. And we used to listen. The village used to come. The village would come. One set would come by my mother's shop. Another set go down by Mr. Latham down the road. And during lunchtime, which would be in the night because of the time zone, one or the other will decide to cook. And when they break for lunch, we break and we eat, and we go back to listen all night.
Wow,
we're fanatic lovers of cricket. I still am a fanatical lover of cricket.
I just want to go back there a bit. So your father left from he was dismissed as a watchman, and then transitioned into creating his own business.
Yes.
With regional trade and all that. So
yes, and when he died in 2001, just a few months after I became Prime Minister. I became Prime Minister in March. On March 29, 2001. He died in July. And my mother lived beyond him and lived until she was 98.
Oh, wow.
But my father died when he was 85. And when he died, he still remained grounded in his working people and peasant values, the rural values. But he had built himself up where he left property I would guess in the region of about close to $10 million.
Which is quite a story.
That's substantial.
Yeah.
Which is about $4 million US. I mean, I am property and mainly property, but so of course 10 children, so it doesn't.
Yeah, we know that goes. You know that goes.
It's not when you think about it in today's son, but it is a remarkable journey.
It is.
It is.
Yeah.
It is an extremely remarkable journey.
My we all had our chores, For instance, well, when I reached the age 12 to go to write the grammar school exam, colonialism had been in our country, British colonialism, since 1763. Even except for a few years when the French took it back. Before the end of the between 1779 and 1783, and they were unbroken there until internal self-government in 1969 and independence in 1979. But the British had built for their 200 years of colonialism, they had built 2 secondary schools, one for boys and one for girls, one for each 100 years of colonialism. And just by comparison, I built 9 in 5 years. In my first 5 years. So when people talk about the good old days of colonialism, we can get the comparison in that sense.
You're wondering good for who?
We were to the grammar school at the time took in 30 boys. 1958 was the exam. Late in the year, October, kind of time, because you started the school year in January. So I started grammar school in January 1959. About 250 boys selected from across the country would write the exam, special exam. And I was one of the 30 who got in. The way you got in was very interesting. Of course, the exam is competitive. But the schools, the primary schools, as I later understood, was the primary schools are divided between A, B, and C schools. So those A schools in the city, everybody who was in that class would write the exam, all the boys.
Okay.
In the B, the ministry and the teachers will decide. But those like far countryside, like Connery Primary School, the inspector of schools came by. I remember his name, Mr. Keane. And he turned up and he asked our principal, Mr. Stevens, was a good man. In fact, I launched a secondary school in my home village called after him, the George Stevens Secondary School.
Fascinating.
And Mr. Keane came and he asked the headmaster, the principal, how many boys could make the cut to write the grammar school exam. And they gave us a test. I think 3 or 4 of us were selected because the quote unquote brightest boys in that class. And Mr. Keane proceeded to give us the test, a dictation, a couple passages, and that will give him an idea as to whether you can spell and how you can deal with punctuation, because you read it in a way. So that's one. Secondly, mental arithmetic. And thirdly, a composition, an essay for English. I was the only one who got the chance. I was the one selected. And it's interesting, and I am, and you'd understand why education, for me, is not a policy. The education revolution.
Mm-hmm.
It is also a passion.
Mm-hmm.
Because without it, we're not going anywhere. Especially in this period. I mean, in the old days, the old colonial economy, it was based largely on, and I'll come back to the story about going to the grammar school, but I want to just say this. The colonial economy, which was based on a principal agricultural commodity, the foundation for it was an unlimited supplies of low-skilled, unskilled, cheap labor.
Mm-hmm. Set it with that purpose in mind. Yeah.
The economy which we are in quest of building is a many-sided, competitive, modern,
highly skilled,
post-colonial economy, which requires, because it has regional and global linkages, this economy requires persons with, well, what it requires is unlimited supplies of skilled labor and knowledge, competitively priced at a higher level in the chain of the International Division of Labor. Thus, the education revolution. And Barbados is an example of that.
Gotcha.
Now, so when I was selected to go to the grammar school, the village knew. And in a local way, I was a kind of star boy because you get a chance to write grammar school exam.
Yeah.
Because once you go to grammar school, because it is quote unquote the elite boys school.
Elite boys, yeah.
Unless you play the fool, you are likely
you're set up
to make something of yourself.
Yes.
Yeah. I wonder.
Get a profession so that now I went to school barefooted. Now I'm going to school in town. I'm going to write the exam in Kingston, 18 miles away. I still go town now and again or pass through. My mother decided that she'd buy me a pair of hard shoes so that I will go to write the exam.
Right.
Well, she didn't take me to town. She measured my foot with a piece of string.
Right.
Now, the string is not the best instrument with which to measure your foot.
No, not at all.
It's not standard instrument.
Been there.
And then the application of that shoe, the application of that measure to the shoe itself is problematic.
Yeah.
The measurement is a problem, the instrument to measure, and the application is a problem. So she brought it back for me from the only big shoe store in the town, Bata.
Bata.
Yes, man.
I was going to ask.
Actually, Bata.
Gotta be.
I was going to ask if it's Bata.
Bata. So I go
Hard shoes.
hard shoes from Bata.
Yeah.
It had a little. They used to have some things on it, a little metal on the front, underneath. When you walk, it click in. They used to call it.
Yeah. So it don't rub down.
Yeah. So, but she brought it a half size too small.
Ooh.
So this is an encumbrance to which I had been unaccustomed. I had not been accustomed to this encumbrance of a hard shoe. And then it had the additional debilitating feature that it was squeezing my foot.
Yes. Keep you on your toes.
Yeah. Well, my mother said to me, as I call her mother, but she's you call her mommy. I say, mommy said to me, "It's all right, Ralph. Your foot go stretch it." Of course, you're a growing boy.
Exactly.
You ain't stretching.
Not
Very
at the same rate.
real good show for me.
Yeah.
So I go to town. Exam starting early in the morning, about 8:30, 9 o'clock. We have to walk from where the bus leaving me. It's about 400 yards. And I walk in there from where they leave me to where I'm going. 1 foot today, 1 foot tomorrow. It's like I have, in the old days, they had a foot disease called tubo. I walk in as though I got tubo. I don't know what they call it in Barbados. And when I reach in the exam room, something came into my head. I don't know where the Almighty God put it in my head. And he says, listen, I have something for this boy in his life. I'm going to put him properly on this racetrack called education. And the thought came to me, take off your shoe, take off your socks, and write your exam like how you had written all exams hitherto. That is to say, barefooted.
Make yourself comfortable.
And that made the difference.
Wow.
You know?
Amazing.
You know, later on I understood very well the poetic formulation of the Nobel American poet laureate, not Nobel laureate, poet laureate, Robert Frost. 2 roads diverged in the woods.
Yes.
And I chose the one least traveled by.
Yeah.
And that has made all the difference.
Yeah.
Amazing. Amazing. Leadership
So that-
is something that you speak a lot about.
I saw somebody putting in tight shoes, they're easy. And somebody always thought that there was jiggers, but there's also tubu. It's different than jiggers. But
Now, Mr. Gonsalves, leadership is something you speak a lot of, and it's interesting to hear your humble beginnings from your parents and yourself. What would you say they instilled in you, and those humble beginnings instilled in you that you still go back to or lean on in your time of leadership?
believe in yourself. That, and I preach this all the time. We in the Caribbean, we're not better than anybody, but nobody is better than us.
Yeah.
I like it.
And what we want to do, we set our mind. There are hurdles, there are difficulties. Every setback, you turn it into an advance.
True.
And discipline and hard work and education and family and community
Yeah.
and Almighty God.
Yeah. Come on.
Fundamental verities, social solidarity, looking out for one another,
Yeah.
not to be an atomized individual, but to be a social individual. Because atomized individuals, if you're just, and modern capitalism has built us up into atomized individuals, and this thing, the Facebook and Instagram and so on, strangely, despite all the communication, they develop in persons a certain individualism.
It's true.
Absolutely.
You're an atomized individual. If you're like an atom, separate. The same way the physicist manipulates atoms in a laboratory, in a natural science laboratory, if you're in the society and you're an atomized individual with no sense of social solidarity, you also would become easily manipulated. You get manipulated without you even knowing it.
Yeah.
You live in a fool's paradise. You think that you are doing what you think your own right. You have your freedom to do this. You have your freedom to that. All, of course, we have individual freedoms.
Yeah.
Yes.
But they have to be taken within the context of what is reasonably required
Yeah.
for certain public purposes and what is reasonably justifiable in a democratic society.
Really, that analogy to atoms and being manipulated, because when an atom breaks down, quite explosive as well. So as an individual, if you're not connected to community,
Every day when I went to the grammar school,
Yes.
we used to travel by some wooden buses. You remember them from Barbados? You would bring in the chassis.
Rockland?
They were basically British buses,
The canvas down
Boston
the side.
buses, Leland bus.
See them? Wow.
They have, but the craftsmen, the builders will build the wooden buses on them. They will take 32, 34 passengers, around that number, with a little partition at the back to put in goods. You know, dry goods and produce and so on.
Yeah.
No. That is what I used to go to school with. The bus would leave my village at about 20 to 7. 6:30, 20 to 7. Every morning, I had to get up. My chore was to get up for the morning to go to the lands from where we lived to where my father got his first parcel of land. 15 acres. He had cows there. I used to have to go and milk the cows. It would take me going by donkey about 15 minutes. Coming back, it take me about 20 minutes because I have the milk. I have a precious commodity, so I can't move as fast.
Yes. You can't spill it.
And I have to get back because that milk is fresh milk for the home. She will keep a bottle for the principal of the primary school, and she will keep a bottle for the priest in the area. I had to come, so I had to get up early, go to the lands, go to the mountain, milk the cow, bring back the milk. And while my mother is making breakfast, I go to the river and bathe. The river was nearby. And I come home, I eat breakfast, I get dressed, collect my books, go on the road, wait for the bus. If I miss that bus, there's no other one for me that day. So I have to, and when I come home on evenings, school finish at 3, the bus would leave town at about 3 o'clock, 3:30. We get home about 5. I eat something and then I have to go to the lands. See about I had some animals myself, mainly goat. And I had to cut grass, feeding for the 2 donkeys, George and White. That was their name. That's because they were at home. They're my Mercedes Benz and my
I had to take care of them.
and my Toyota SUV, you know. So
Of course.
and I am all of that has stood me in good stead.
Wow.
And I enjoy my childhood.
Okay.
Angela.
Our village is near to the sea. I did the waves. You know, people will you see people with boards, surfboards. We use the trunk of the banana body of the plantain and put ourselves on it.
Yeah, man.
And we will ride those. We'd ride those waves. Sometimes you get wrapped up in it.
Well,
The river, hunting, fishing, cricket. Football was not a sport at that time in the rural area. It's now very much there.
Yeah, I know everything about football.
And whatever little we had, you're satisfied with it. I was a rebellious and only boy.
Really?
Interesting to hear.
Tell me some of them stories, man. You're going up a good path here.
The thing is this. I would leave. I will go. Sometimes somebody in the village would call me to eat something as a boy. The village brought us up, and I live good with the folk. This is why up to today, there is no. I'm not boasting when I say this. There is no politician in the country over the last 40-something years could communicate with the folk in the rural area as well as I can, or indeed in the urban area with the urban working class, because I will tell you how I got close with the urban working class. So that, and of course, these things nowadays, if I do that, they will say my mother and father would be engaged in child labor, trafficking in persons. You know, these are different concepts in different ages. And important concepts, and we have to be careful about child labor and the question, and that was a feature in plantations. But when it's done in the family, it's really family labor, and it's character building too. So the distinctions have to be made. Sometimes the modern distinctions don't quite make those. But I had to do all that during the day. I mean, in the morning before and in the evening when I come from school. And on weekends, I had to go on the lands or being in the business. And when I was 14 years old, my mother, and I said this in Parliament, I said one of my best training, despite my training in economics and political economy and law and everything, and I ran some of the best universities in the world, I told the Parliament one day that one of the better experiences for the job as Minister of Finance was when, for 3 months, when my mother was hospitalized in 1960, that 14 years old, she put me in charge of the shop.
Wow.
By then, the shop had grown. It sold a country shop from rum through butter, saltfish, smoke herring, right down to clothing, female underwear, everything. You know, the general shop in the countryside.
Yes.
Yeah. Everything on sale.
A small gas station and a small wholesale place. And the shop would close at 10 o'clock at night. And by 11 at night, I have everything organized to give my father. This is the money from the shop. This is the money from the gas station. This is the money from the small wholesale business. This is what I paid out for. This is what I paid out for goods which I purchased with vehicles coming up and down. This is what I paid workers, so on and so forth. And this is what I'm keeping for the petty cash for the next day.
Wow, tremendous.
But with all of that, even
I learned those basic things as a boy
in the shop.
In the shop.
Yes, absolutely.
So when in the time of COVID and the volcano and the ravages of global capitalism, I know how to count pennies.
You've gone back to the shop,
and I know
I
know how to stretch. I know how to stretch the money.
But with all of that, with the chores and so on that you are doing, you appear to be a very well-read person. Even if I look behind you, I see a stack of books there.
When I reached fifth form, and there used to be 2 fifth forms, lower fifth, upper fifth. The last 2 years of before you write which subsequently became GC, but it was called School Leaving Certificate. Cambridge University sat that exam, and then your A levels, my mom sent me to town to live.
Okay.
So I would live there during the week and go up on weekends. Go up on Fridays, come back down on Mondays. And
when you say send you to town, was that with a relative or?
Well, first with a relative. Look, when I went to live with my relative first, there was no space for me. There's no bedroom or anything for me. For 2 years, I slept on a cot. My mother gave me a pillow. I slept on the cot. I fold the cot and have it in the living room. In the morning, when I get up early, I fold it up and put it aside and put the pillow aside. So this is why when I went around during Sufre, when the volcano, and I went to visit shelters, and I see a young man complain to me that he didn't get a mattress, he got a cot. I say, man, listen to me. Somebody your size, you could sleep on a cot. I sleep on a cot for 2 years. When I tell him a story, you shut him out. I say, man, your mother and your grandmother must get the bed. Make do with the cot for the time being. You know, so, and then I went to live at another place, but in a working class area in the city, down in Middle Street. And there I met people from the 1935 uprising.
Okay.
Anti-colonial uprising. Played drafts with them, learn about them. My friends were the fishermen, the stevedores, the sanitation workers, ladies of the night. The Titan George McIntosh, who led the anti-colonial uprising. He was a druggist, what we'd call now a pharmacist. But it's amazing how that went through. First of all, in the old English days, they called the thing an apothecary. Then it became a drugstore. Then it became a pharmacy. It's amazing how the progression of these things. And I got to know him so that I took great interest. For instance, you talk about some books which are around me here. One of them is called The Trial of George McIntosh and the 1935 Uprising. And I remember Daddy Mac very well. And he used to take time out as I pass in front of his drugstore to talk to him. You know, interestingly, during the Second World War, and even afterwards, he had a photograph of Stalin, Joseph Stalin.
Okay.
Even though he didn't believe in Soviet communism, the fighter for the working people, but he respected Stalin's role in the anti-fascist and anti-Nazi struggles against Hitler. And he knew the sacrifice which the Soviet Union made. Over 25 million people from the Soviet Union died in the Second World War.
Wow.
You don't get that from the American textbooks.
No,
not at all.
You may not get that from the British textbook written by partisan Tories.
Yeah, this is true too.
Very true.
In those early years, is this where your first inklings that you wanted to serve or become part of the process begin to form, as far as helping shape the nation or helping guide the nation?
I think so. I think it, it happens in you. Well, first of all, I was born with a rebel seed.
Wow.
Rebel seed.
I am now a wiser and more mature rebel. And even though I'm prime minister, I'm still a rebel. but a mature one and a wise one. And where necessary and desirable, I involve myself in creative rebellion.
Creative rebellion.
I like it.
Explain.
Yeah.
Well, I guess certain things you just have to rebel up against them because they're wrong. You know, so and look for solutions.
Yeah, important.
Look, as I was telling you, as a boy, I will go by somebody's house, and in my village, there are a lot of people who had thatch houses, wooden houses, thatch houses. Some of them Watland Dab from the early days. And I will eat there, or I'll go river and go home with the boys them or whoever. Or we might be playing hide and seek in an arrowroot field during the moonlight. And I will go and I'd go and eat something, and I simply drop asleep on the floor. And my mother in the middle of the night sending people looking for me. Of course, she will beat me. But I will do it again.
You do it again.
And pay the price.
You know, that's how God made me.
Oh, okay.
And from the time I was small, I was very sensitive to people's concerns and always want to help and to do this and to do that.
Wow.
And as the years went by, I understood better how some things kept some things hung together. Ebenezer Joshua. I remember when I was 10 years old in 1956. I saw Joshua. I've written about him too. I've written about him. There's a book here which I have called Politics of Our Caribbean Civilization. It's a series of essays. And one of them is entitled, let me see what the title of this essay, a long one called The Political Ideas, Action and Style of Ebenezer Joshua of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. First labor leader after universal adult suffrage in 1951. And I listened to this man. There's this big strike, massive strike in 1956. And he was in the yard by the police station, almost obliquely opposite to where my parents had moved in the village. And I heard him talking without a microphone. I'm a little boy listening to him. And I remember listening to how he's railing against the plantocracy. He's talking against colonialism, talking about self-determination. All those ideas in my head. Of course,
when you were 10,
it was sad that by 1979, because of opportunistic politics, Ebenezer Joshua found himself on the wrong side of the debate in relation to independence of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. He didn't want independence under Milton Cato. Michael Cumberbatch is asking if it's E.T. Joshua to whom the airport.
Yes.
Well, that was the airport before we built the Argyle International Airport. So the E.T. Joshua Airport is now decommissioned, but it's being developed otherwise. It's a site for.
Yes.
Basic things are happening there. We're going to build a modern city there. There's a big commercial center there now called the Joshua Center. Just by the way, I built this airport, I initiated the building of this airport, build it together. Friends from the region and globally. And everybody thought that I was a madman because I had to move 4 mountains.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah, I remember that.
I had to level down with 4 valleys. I had to span a river and a stream. I had to move a church and a cemetery. I had to move 140 middle and upper middle income houses. That was for starters. And I built it. I conceptualized it, carried it to the cabinet, carried it to the country without the money. But I built it. The other day, well, not too long ago, the Deputy Prime Minister in St. Vincent and Grenadines got up saying that he wants it to be called, because it was opened in 2017, February, on Valentine's Day. The theme was love. Love is in the air.
Love.
Love is in the air.
See what you did there?
Yeah. But he got up saying that he wants Parliament. I know he was always talking about it at cabinet, and I tell him, I said, it's rubbish. Want it to be called the Ralph Gonsalves International Airport. I went to, well, he came to Parliament. So I got up, asked the Speaker, asked him, the Honourable Deputy Prime Minister would sit. I told the Speaker that I'm not supporting what he's coming with. That I'm opposing anybody naming anything after me while I'm alive.
Wow.
And if you try to do it, if I'm in government, I'm stopping it. If you do it when I'm out of government, I will go to court with an injunction to stop you from using my name. If afterwards I'm dead, you want to do that, well, that's your business. It wouldn't matter me because I wouldn't know.
Not there.
True.
All I want to do, I want to serve. And I want to be in the hearts and minds of people. If those who don't appreciate me or like me politically, there's nothing I could do about that. Those who tell falsehoods about me, there's nothing I could do about that. I just tell you what I when I at my age now, I'm 75 years of age now.
We did the math. Yeah.
I have been the longest serving Prime Minister continuously, I'm advised, in the region. March will be 21 years.
Yeah.
I won 5 successive general elections.
Yeah.
Between 2001 and 2020. I have ambition for the country, for the young people, for the region, but for myself. My only remaining ambitions are the following. When I die, at the moment of my death, I must have no more sins to confess. At the moment of my death, I must have no enemies. You can be my enemy, but that's your business.
True.
You would be my enemy. Thirdly, at the moment of my death, I must own nothing.
Wow.
And fourthly, at the moment of my death, I pray to Almighty God that I would not leave behind any unfinished task. Those are the 4 things. I don't have any other I don't have any personal ambition. So that I put, because the question had arisen as to whether I had, about Joshua naming the airport after Joshua. So I put that in the context. Now, after I went to university, I went to grammar school, I got my CXC, I got my exam, my senior Cambridge exams, I passed my A-levels. I took a gap year, taught at a secondary school out in my my neck of the woods in the countryside, run by the Anglican Church, Bishop's College in Georgetown, second town, part of what the place I represent in Parliament since 1994. And then I went to University of the West Indies in Jamaica. I did a bachelor's of science degree in economics with a concentration in political economy. I did a master's degree there in government at the University of the West Indies. I then got a PhD at University of Manchester in England. I went there, I got a scholarship to go to Manchester in political economy. Part of the time I spent at Makerere University in Kampala, Uganda.
Tell us a bit about that, actually, because it would be useful to get a little bit of context around that.
Oh, I will tell you. And then I also did law. I did law in London at Gray's Inn. I'll come to Makerere. I lived actually, when I was in London, I lived in Tottenham.
That's my football team.
Well, the thing is,
I hope you didn't support Arsenal at the time.
Let the man finish.
No.
Let the man finish.
You can't live in Tottenham and support Arsenal. I mean,
No.
I love you, Prime Minister. I know I like you.
That's a sin. From when I was a boy,
going so well, you know.
When I was a boy in St. Vincent, I supported both Manchester United and Tottenham. So when I went to England, when I was in Manchester and I went to Old Trafford, I'm a Man United man.
Yes.
Okay.
In Tottenham, when I went there, and I used to go there, I used to take, when I went there completing law, by then I had a son, Camilo, who is now my Minister of Finance. I used to take him on the grounds as when he was a little boy at Tottenham, White Hart Lane. And I subsequently, since I was Prime Minister, I went there to watch a game between Tottenham and Man United on an Easter Monday.
That's trouble.
My friend Baroness Amos.
Yes.
You know her.
Yes, I do. Yes.
Yeah, she was once the leader of the House of Lords.
Yes.
Tony Blair, first black woman to do that.
Indeed.
You know, when I toured the House of Lords, courtesy Valerie Amos, she's now in an administrative position, one of the senior position in one of the colleges at Oxford. One of the old geezers who hardly came to the House of Lords, she told me the story. I asked her, I said, tell me something. Any of these persons ever thought that you were the tea lady? She said, well, you are. She said on one occasion, one of these fellas asked her about, remember the House of Lords, not every one of the old geezers will come every sitting. So they came and they saw her, they didn't know her. And he quite politely asked her if she could help him get a cup of tea. She said, yes, please come with me. And went to her office because she was leader of the House of Lords. And then he told one of his secretaries, she told one of her secretaries, could you please get a cup of tea for Lord so-and-so? You can get one, you know how mine is. And then the old geezer realizes that he was talking to the leader of the House of Lords. You know? You know, so Blair for all the sins that they lay at his feet. At least with Valerie and her elevation to the House of Lords is a very good thing.
Very
good
yes,
thing.
true.
Yeah.
But in Uganda, I went to Uganda in 1972.
Okay.
At the beginning of June 1972. And I stayed there until 73. I was at Makerere University. I lived in Dag Hammarskjöld Hall, which was the graduate hall, but I ate my meals at Livingston Hall, but called by the people Spirit Hall. And I was there when Field Marshal Idi Amin Dada was president. It was quite an experience. Uganda, of course, is a magnificent country.
Oh, yes.
Magnificent. I mean, Churchill had called it the Pearl of Africa.
It's rising again as well.
Yes.
Yeah. It's
Of
rising.
course, I got to know Museveni, not at Kampala, but I went to Tanzania to play cricket for Makerere at the East and Central African Championships.
I didn't know you was a
you
cricketer
were
too.
avid
Well, you got to
cricketer
tell me.
Okay.
Carry on.
I was a journeyman. I was a journeyman.
A number 10 or a number 10 or a number 2?
I was a journeyman. So I played cricket there. And whilst I was in Dar es Salaam, well, I took the bus. Some people went by air, but I took the bus from Kampala, went east, went across, the Nile starts in Victoria. So I went east, went into Western Kenya, went into Nairobi, then took the bus, went south from Nairobi, past Kilimanjaro, go down, past the whole area, Arusha, going down to Dar es Salaam, capital city. It's beautiful, beautiful country, beautiful, incredible. And Walter Rodney was lecturing there in history. He was a professor.
Okay.
At Walter's house,
Okay.
where I went to play dominoes. And his wife, Pat, who is now in Atlanta with the children. She cooked some food. She has a PhD in nursing. She's a fantastic human being. And Walter and I became friends because as an undergraduate, I was in a history class. For the program I was doing, an optional course was Caribbean history. And the man I was fortunate to teach me, he wasn't much older than me, was Walter Rodney. And I discovered that we love dominoes, and he and I love Kung Fu movies.
See the Silver Fox, man.
There's a book here called The Rodney Affair and Its Aftermath. I wrote this. I was president of the Students' Union at Mona in 1968. And Walter on October the 15th was banned. 1968 from returning to from a Black Writers Conference in Montreal, Canada. Banned from returning. And October the 16th, I led what was, I'm told, is the largest protest in Jamaica since the anti-colonial uprising of 1938.
Wow.
I tell you, I got, on that day, I moved from the status of a petty bourgeois rebel with links with the working people to become for the first time, a serious political activist. When the army and the police confronted us in Jamaica.
The birth of the leader.
So I count my political activism actually from October the 16th, 1968. So you call that now over 50 years, 53 years of political activism.
Yeah.
All over the world.
Who are some of the other people involved in that might have gone on to also be involved in leadership?
I will come back and tell you about. Let me tell you about Museveni with Walter, and then I'll come back with this.
Yeah.
So I met Museveni, and we remember it because when Walter went away, he used to leave Museveni in charge. So I'm talking to my brother Museveni in Tanzania. This is in 1972, sometime in 72. He said to me, I said, why you not, he's politically active and conscious and so on. Yes, that's Marissa Strickland, How Europe Underdeveloped Africa, absolutely a brilliant book.
It is, yeah.
I drew it to the attention of Fidel. How Europe Underdeveloped Africa. And it was translated, of course, in Spanish. In several other languages. Originally published in 1973 by Bogle Louverture Publication House out of North London. Now, people like Johnson Rose and that group of trailblazers. So I said, but Obote, whom Amin had overthrown in 1971, September 1970. I said, Obote and Julius Nyerere, who was then president, Mwalimu was then president of Tanzania, I said they were working together to see if they can get rid of Amin. I said, why you don't work with them? He said, yes. He said, but let me tell you what's going to happen. He said, this nexus between Obote and Nyerere will get to overthrow Amin. He said, Obote will come back. Then somebody within Obote's group will overthrow Obote again. Then somebody will overthrow that one. And then I will come from the bush. He said, because I going in the bush. I going do the guerrilla war. And he said, I will then be president. We'll then take over the government. He said, that's when Uganda will progress.
Wow.
So I'm watching this young man. I'm saying, Jesus, is he mad? But the man knew what he was talking about.
He did it, yeah.
Wow.
And he did it. He's my partner. He's my friend. No. Walter was an extraordinary person. I would say of our generation, he was the most outstanding intellectual of our generation. And he died too young.
Indeed.
Yeah.
He was only 39 when he was killed.
He was only 39. He was assassinated.
I don't know if I have it here. Give me 1 minute. Let me just pull away for half a minute, see if I'll find it.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Listen, guys in the chat, this is a fabulous lesson. Just listening to his journey, man.
Indeed. I was gonna say, listen, guys in the chat, we see you in the comments. Thank you so much for joining us today. please hit share, because really and truly everyone across the region need to listen to this. Watch it, listen to it,
so
be part
much.
of it. You know, if they can't be part of it live now, they need to watch it back. Hit share, just make sure that everyone gets to be a part of history, I think, is what's happening here at the moment. And so
some moments, man.
I'm just in awe to be part of it, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Also, guys, if you're new for the first time, you're on We Global. This is our show, The Living Room. I'm Andre, good friends, Mark and Philip. We do this every Sunday, have great Caribbean conversations. This is the first in our series of leaders in the living room. So if this is your first time with us, hit like on Facebook, follow on Facebook, subscribe on YouTube. We're on Twitter as well, and we're on Instagram. So We Global, West Indians Global Media. Just follow us and just come and be part of these conversations. This is what we do on Sundays. Well, not like this. I gotta add it. This is
And it might be you guys in the comment might want to see your leader in the living room.
True.
So let us know.
Indeed. Now this is just a fascinating conversation that we're having here. I just soaking up the history of it all and seeing the connections as well, because so much is connected to what I know happening today, but you don't see the building blocks of it that you may have skimmed over at some point in time in the past. But to hear, you know, how it all came to pass and different parts of it came to pass is really truly amazing.
Really interested in what he's going to come back with, because I didn't recognize there was that real close relationship between him and Walter Rodney.
Yeah.
But
No, I didn't realize that.
This itself is.
I'm trying to find it. I'm sorry. I'm trying to find a book of poems, because I know one of you you're a poet, or you're involved in poetry.
You've done your research.
There's a poet. There's a poet from St. Vincent and the Grenadines named Ellsworth Shakespeare, now dead.
Okay.
The poem is called Private Prayer. It was written in 1973 on the occasion of the publication of How Europe Underdeveloped Africa. The poem is called Private Prayer. It's in a collection published out of St. Martin called Angel Horn, Angel Horn. And you should read. You should read it. It's about histories about who we are. And Sheikh is talking about, in order to know who we are, we have to come home to ourselves. And if you want to know who we are and coming home to ourselves, you have to ask your mother and your father and your grandmother and your grandfather. And to understand the compromises which we are. And to come home. We have to come home to our history. And come home to ourselves.
Love it.
100%.
I wanted to get it. Sheikh Keane.
Yeah, I can see it here. The Angel Horn by Sheikh Keane. Yeah.
You have it there.
I don't have the poem, but I've just seen the book here.
Yeah.
We will share that out to our audience for sure.
Read Private Prayer.
Private Prayer.
Now, Sheikh Keane was one of 3 poets from St. Vincent. They're in many anthologies. Sheikh is a very interesting man. Sheikh left St. Vincent to go on a scholarship to do literature in the United Kingdom. He left playing the trumpet, and he developed skills as a jazz musician in playing the flugelhorn. And he gave up his studies, played music, jazz in Europe, and also and wrote poetry. He won the Casa de las Americas prize, the prize of poetry from Cuba. You must look it up. In fact, he has a fantastic long poem on the 1979 Soufrière volcanic eruption, full with humor. Sheikh, he died in the U.S. Extraordinary human being. He came back for a short while here as head of the Department of Culture, but you can't hold a spirit of that man. It's like George Lamy, difficult to contain that spirit.
Yes.
But Sheikh, there are 3 remarkable young poets who came up at that time in St. Vincent. Sheikh Keane, Danny Williams, who died, and Owen Campbell. People claim that Owen was the best of the 3 of them. But Owen didn't write as much. But all of them, extraordinary poets. And you find their work in anthologies.
Yeah.
And Danny also had a similar sense of history, like Sheikh, and of our Caribbean civilization. Because this thing, and I've written extensively on this issue of our Caribbean civilization, the politics of our Caribbean civilization, our Caribbean civilization and its political prospects. Because we have a civilization sui generis, of its own special kind. And that has to frame the context for our social and economic transformation. I talked about the economic quest as to what you must build, how the education revolution fits into that, but it can't take place in isolation of this broad rubric called our civilization. And we are like, metaphorically, I've written a symphony. We are the songs of the indigenous peoples. The Garifuna, the Kalinago, and the Garifuna, the Amerindians. We are the rhythm of Africa. We are the melody of Europe. We are the chords of Asia. And we are the homegrown lyrics of the Caribbean.
Wow.
And this Caribbean, which has become creolized through the fever of history, where we have moved from a society where was culturally plural, with each cultural, ethnic, or racial section having its own relatively distinct pattern of sociocultural integration. But through this fever of history, with all its joys and triumphs, and all the possibilities and limitations, that we have arrived at a point through a creolized civilization.
Yeah.
And this metaphoric symphony has emerged and exists. Of course, like in all symphonies, you will find dissonances. But those dissonances, we have evolved cultural instruments and features and ideas and concepts and modes of behavior and institutions to take care of those dissonances as we seek to build a more perfect civilization.
Wow.
Well, all dissonances you don't resolve. Sometimes dissonance brings beauty as well in the symphony.
Yes.
So there are some things that are
yes.
But
yes.
That's a fantastic metaphor.
Yes.
Beautiful.
And so Danny Williams has a poem, Daniel Williams, called We Are the Cenotaphs. And it discusses an interesting issue which we have been talking about here. Time. Because as I discuss my own history, and there's a book, you'd find it on Amazon, called The Making of the Comrade. The Journey of Ralph Gonsalves. This is my autobiography in the making. This was published in 2010. So there are many things to be said after 2010. Hopefully I have the time to write it. But, and to flesh out some of the other things that I wrote in this publication in 2010. Danny Williams says, we are all time. Only the future is ours to desecrate. The present is the past. And the past, our father's mischiefs. Of all time, only the future is ours to desecrate.
To desecrate.
True.
And we have to work together to have an avoidance of the desecration of the future. And I try to tell my British friends this. I sought to tell David Cameron this. I haven't gotten the chance to tell
Boris
this. I tried to tell Tony Blair this in a discussion in Jamaica where Valerie Amos was there. And in 2003, you see the legacy of underdevelopment which we have endured as a consequence of native genocide and the enslavement of Africans. There has to be reparations. There must be recompense.
Yeah.
Not for individual people to get money, but to address the legacies of underdevelopment.
Yeah.
Very true.
Yeah.
I'm sorry I do a lot of writing because these things, I've written I don't have it here among this lot. I probably do somewhere here.
That's right.
But it's called the Reparatory Justice in the Caribbean. It's also on Amazon.
Yes.
It's also on Amazon, where I discuss reparations. I had in fact taken the subject to CARICOM heads of government and had the setting up of the CARICOM Reparations Commission. And Hilary Beckles, my good friend, University of the West Indies, doing tremendous work in that regard. And by the way, his book on Black British, the Black British debt, the debt owed by the British, and we are pursuing this, and it's getting greater currency. I hope I live to see it.
Yeah.
But if I don't, the persons in the younger generation will build upon what
the foundation is set. The foundation is set.
What we have. Angela says at first she didn't understand the reparation argument, but gradually she's appreciating it. It's not about giving, and we don't want confrontation with people, with the European nations. No. We want to have a conversation.
Yeah.
And we have a program. And that conversation was first refused by David Cameron when Frondel was chair of the Prime Ministerial Subcommittee on Reparations.
Yeah.
I'm on that body. Barbados has the chair. So Mia is the chair. And if they don't come to us in the way in which they ought to come to us in accordance with our 10-point reparations plan, we will have to go to the International Court of Justice, of which we are all members. Certainly St. Vincent and Grenadines is a member, Britain is a member. And in the case of Suriname, Holland is a member. And in the case of Haiti, France.
Yeah, the French. Yeah.
And there are international agreements, including the Convention for the Elimination of Racial Discrimination, the CERT, upon which we can hang juridically a claim. There are other things too, but that is one of the conventions. Now, you had asked me, I had spoken about Museveni, and you were bringing me to ask me about something else.
I think
that was back in 1968.
Yeah, who else was part of that protest?
Who else was part of the 1968?
Yeah, who would have risen into a position of prominence and leadership?
Well, Bruce Golding and I were in class together.
Okay.
But Bruce Golding did not participate, and I will tell you why, but he played an important role in something after the event. Patrick Manning marched.
Okay.
I used to tell Bruce and Patrick, when at CARICOM, I said, listen to me. Don't contradict me on this thing, you know. I'm the man who led you guys, you know. I led you in 1968. You know, speak to me as your leader.
As your leader.
You know, and Patrick will say to me, you ain't getting anybody to gas me again, you know. Patrick and I were good buddies. Wow, we actually played in the same steel band side at Irving Hall, University of the West Indies steel band side, but basically located at Irving Hall. Though I was in Taylor Hall, but I had learned to play pan in my village.
I was gonna say,
I saw that you were
pan. No, you've been hiding these things.
Yes.
A long time ago. So, at first, when I was playing that, there were two tenor pans. One with 28 notes, with 28 notes, with a big F sharp in the middle. Make it easy when you're playing the run in them days in G. And a fellow Randy, can't remember Randy's last name now. He did medicine. He went into preaching in Miami. Good young man. He used to play a spiderweb pan with about 42 notes. Yeah, at the time there was a spiderweb pan. But the pan which I played was invented by invaders, but perfected by desperados.
Right.
And I'm a Despas fan. You know, I with pan, I'm a Lavantil man. You know, I used to go at Prime Minister, at Carnival time, I leave the airport, and before I go to the hotel, I go straight up Lavantil to hear Despas practice until after they left Lavantil and came lower down.
Okay.
But when I played in the pan side first, Patrick was in the engine room, you know, beating the triangle and so on. But then he came and took my pan, because I then went and played with another group of young Jamaicans starting a pan side. Wow. But he and I were very close.
Okay.
Patrick. But Bruce, what happened during the 1968 protests about the banning of Walter Rodney and his declaration of being a persona non grata. The Jamaican government decided that they were going to ban me. They're going to deport me. The vice chancellor was the Titan, Sir Philip Sherlock, distinguished Jamaican historian and literary figure. He called me as president of the Guild of Undergraduates, the student body, students' union. And he said that the Home Affairs Minister, Mr. Roy McNeill, had contacted him, wrote to him, and told him that they're giving me a choice at the university to have me leave Jamaica. Otherwise, I'd be deported because of my activities in the protests. The protest was deemed to be illegal. There was a lot of destruction after we left the tongue, after we left Kingston and went back up. Buses were burned, business places destroyed, and so on. But we didn't have anything to do with that. There were people who took advantage of that, of the protest. And there were thousands of people on the streets.
Wow.
So Philip Sherlock agreed. He said, well, Ralph, you will have to leave. But don't worry, we will go to Trinidad. You will go to Trinidad. The university will support you in every way. You'll complete your degree there. So I left Sir Philip's office and went to a class in the Faculty of Social Sciences in which Bruce Golden was also taking that class. And Bruce was my friend. So I said, Bruce, boy, I had to wind up my business in Jamaica in a couple of days because I tell him the story now. He said, no, that can't happen. So his father was Speaker of the House of Representatives and a big leader in the Jamaica Labour Party government of Hugh Shearer. And a powerhouse in Shearer's government was Edward Siaga, then Minister of Finance and Economic Planning. And Bruce was a protege of Siaga. They later fell out, but that's a different story. But at the time, he was the young protege of Siaga.
Okay.
And Bruce said, no. We have to go and call Siaga right now. And he called Siaga. He went to the office of the secretary in the Department of Economics, got a phone call, called Siaga. So in those days, remember, cell phone in there, in them days.
Long distance, collect even.
Yeah. So she gave him the call, explained. And Siaga invited us to dinner that night at Vale Royal. There was me, Bruce Golden, fellow Cecil July, who did economics, subsequently did law, and was a magistrate. Good man. He died a couple of months ago. He was a magistrate in Jamaica. He lived in the rural communities. And during the dinner, Shearer called, and I spoke to Prime Minister Shearer. And he said, because of the intervention with Bruce and Siaga, they will not bother with the deportation.
Okay.
So when Bruce and I would clash at heads of government on different perspectives, he said, listen to me. The worst thing I ever did in my life is to stop them from deporting you.
That's interesting. Prime Minister, another question here. You mentioned...
another person was involved. Arnold Schwarzen, who served in the government of Michael Manley.
Okay.
He's actually from St. Anne's in Bronxtown. Bronxtown, St. Anne's, in the same parish, not too far from where Bob Marley was born.
Right.
So Schwarzen, he was at one time Minister of Culture under Michael Manley, and he served under PJ and so on. He was a historian. He's still there,
On a
very good human being.
regional level, Prime Minister, obviously I know regionalism is at the heart of a lot of what you do, and obviously a lot of what you say in your writings as well. When we do our show, so many people we talk about CARICOM, and the feeling that on the ground as a people, CARICOM, the people want it to be work better, want it to be closer, want to be closer knit, but it feels as if sometimes the leaders are getting in the way. I wonder if you had a comment on that to help us understand how CARICOM is working. What can we do to help it be better?
I don't think so.
No.
We have made tremendous progress, particularly people progress, and I will I'll explain that. But I'll tell you, over the years, I have come to the realization that in order to build what I call a mature regionalism, we have to appreciate the challenges in integrating islands.
Localism.
Islands are peculiar phenomena. When you're in an island, you think that you are the center of the world.
Yes.
Maybe that's the feeling why during the Second World War, it is said that Barbados had sent a message to Churchill. Go ahead, Britain. Barbados is behind you. So that so you look inwards. But this inward look has to ride with something contradictory called the outward gaze, because as an island, you know that there's something beyond
the shore.
Sure.
Yeah.
True.
So there is this interesting dialectic, this contradictory pull between the inward look and the outward gaze.
Yeah.
How do you resolve this? And I came to this greater understanding by reading a book once by Sir Roy Strong. And he began his book. Glendora is saying, really a predicament, that inward look. Yes.
Yes.
But there's also the outward gaze, Glendora.
Yeah.
We have to try to resolve that dialectic, that contradiction, or mute it. But Sir Roy Strong, in writing a history of Britain, began his book. You look at it, I'm paraphrasing.
Yeah.
He said, the most distinguished characteristic of British history has been its islandness.
That is true.
If a lot of people had read that first line of Sir Roy Strong's book, maybe there'd been a different set of approaches to Brexit.
That's so true, you know. Fabulous point.
Fabulous
point. It's a very good point.
The most distinctive feature of British history has been its islandness. Angela, it's not so much insularity. It's a more profound thing than insularity in my view. Because at the same time, there's the outward gaze. There must be.
Yes.
I mean, I know the point is this: Donald Trump had come to this conclusion, but in his own inimitable way, and one may say ignorant way. I don't know if you remember what Donald Trump once said when people criticize him for not dealing with Puerto Rico after a hurricane, and
What was that?
he said on national television, he said you people don't understand Puerto Rico, He said Puerto Rico is an island surrounded by water.
Yes. Very profound.
Surrounded by water. So I think that's a challenge. And with island CARICOM, you can't ask CARICOM to do more than what it is.
Okay.
CARICOM is a community of sovereign states. It is a community of states which the states have their own sovereignties. So what you're basically doing for four purposes, as defined in the revised Treaty of Chaguaramas. Those four purposes, you have decided to pool your sovereignty for those four purposes. What are they? 1, economic integration, which involves trade. 2, functional cooperation in areas of education, health, disaster preparedness, and so on and so forth. Thirdly, the coordination of foreign policy as far as is practicable. And fourthly, the coordination of security. Now, in functional cooperation, you're doing pretty well. In education, in health, there's CAFA, which has been so helpful. Education, you have University of West Indies, doing it very well. And other things, you have CXC, Caribbean Examination Council, and so on. And then you have, in security, you have the Implementation Agency for Crime and Security, doing fairly well. And the regional coordinating fusion center, which is really to do analysis of intelligence, receipt and analysis of intelligence, intelligence gathering and intelligence analysis. And in foreign policy, as far as practicable, we do coordinate. Sometimes we find ourselves, the differences are too difficult. Like, for instance, some who decided to go and support Guaido to be president in Venezuela. Man never run for anything in his life. I don't know how he could be president. Certainly not for the presidency. But where you get challenges are in the issues of trade and economic integration.
Yeah.
And the economic integration involves also movement of people.
Free movement, yeah.
But we have had reasonable movement of people because now it is now established by the Shanique Myrie case.
Yes.
Where this Jamaican lady took the Barbados government and the Caribbean Court of Justice, which is the only authoritative decision-making entity, the final arbiter on certain matters. And it laid down certain precepts, principles, and it took certain clear judicial decisions. And among them, save and except for health or security, for security, or if you're going to be a charge on the state, you have a right as a CARICOM national to go to any other CARICOM country and get up to 6 months stay. Nobody can stop you because that right is established. Decisions of the heads of government became enforceable by the CCJ. So that where Barbados law conflicted with that, community law took precedence.
Yes. Okay.
That's a very important step. And you see it happening one more. And then, of course, the categories for CARICOM skilled national certificates, they're widening.
Okay.
University graduates and teachers and nurses and sports personalities and media personalities and carpenters and masons and domestic workers and so on and so forth. So there's an extensiveness there. The problem, of course, with the quote-unquote free movement with CARICOM skilled nationals certificate, what are the contingent rights? So you know, you have a CARICOM skills national certificate, my brother Mark, and you move in. But you're in a relationship, you're married or you have a partner, you have children. What do you do? Your wife doesn't have a CARICOM skills national certificate. Can she get a job because you get one? What about your child?
Yeah.
Does your child have a right to primary school education and secondary education on the same terms?
And healthcare.
Access to the medical services.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So the issues of the contingent rights, and we're getting there bit by bit.
It's complex.
So I make that.
But aren't some of the building blocks of that, though, things like being able to cheaply move around, like tourism and that kind of stuff as well, and not necessarily imposing prohibitive taxes on ourselves?
Yeah.
Isn't some of those things some of the building blocks to help that immigration?
That's something which is not so much CARICOM, but individual countries. Like, for instance,
Interesting.
we had the lowest departure taxes, 40 US. On May the 1st last year, I reduced it to 20 US. I said, we have to get this thing going. Antigua did it. I'm waiting to see if other countries would do it. But the problem is this. People want new and improved airport facilities. Somebody has to pay for them.
Who's going to pay for it?
That's the point.
That's it. Yeah.
That's the problem. That is the difficulty.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I want to say this. Earlier I told you my immense admiration and love for Barbados.
The idea, not the brand.
It's an idea, not a brand. And an idea worthy of emulation here. Not you should look up the piece which I
will do.
I will. Yeah, trust.
As soon as we finish,
We got so much things to read when we finish here now.
We're making notes.
No, the thing in 1976 when I went to Barbados to live, when I was transferred from Mona, UWI. After the first couple of months, there are a number of things which intrigued me coming from Jamaica. Jamaica is the land of wood and waters. Yet where I lived in Mona, the water often went 2 or 3 times a week. Barbados has no rivers. At least nothing to talk about. You got a little gully down the road there, man.
Constitution.
You got a Constitution River in town.
You're right to laugh at me, man. You're right to laugh at me.
I call her a river, man.
Yeah.
You know? So I was intrigued. Every time I turn on my tap in Barbados, I got water. So I left one day and went down to the Barbados Water Authority and asked, I said, I'm intrigued by this. How do you do it? One of the senior officials there who spoke to me said, well, you know, we have an engineer who is going out now to Bell Plantation. You can go with him and see. That's the main place where you... So I went by Bell.
In the Bell. Mm-hmm.
And I saw how you did the water from underground. Mm-hmm. And you outlined everything to me. I said, but this is amazing. Though, of course, there are limitations. That's why it's important for us, everybody, as the issue of desertification and land degradation and droughts become more prevalent.
Yeah.
Guyana and its water supply is critical. Now, that's one. Then the Barbados Labour government, Barbados Labour Party government came to office in September 1976 when I was there, observed the campaign. The Titan Errol Barrow lost. Tom Adams won in September 1976. Billy Miller became Minister of Health and the Environment about 2 months or so after she came to office. She decided to cut down the collection of garbage from 3 days a week to 2 days a week. Man, you thought that the heavens were falling in. Bajan started to write lots of letters to the newspaper, and in that time, they just started to have call-in programs. Man, they pepper them with real
licks.
But Billy was right. You can do it easily with 2 times a week. In fact, you can do it with 1 time a week, so long as the homeowner has a proper receptacle and deal with the separation of the garbage properly and so on. But it struck me that where I lived in Jamaica, again in Mona, they're supposed to come once a week. I'm lucky if they come once every 2 weeks. And nobody complaining. But the public in Barbados, they were saying, no. You're taking a 1 day out of the 3. And I began to look past the Barbados. What is the surface on Barbados? And I start to go, I say, listen, I have to learn more about the working people in Barbados.
Right.
Begin to go down Baxter's Road, spend some time there. Go by the Barbados Labour College, do some teaching there free of charge. Go about the countryside, meet people, stop by the rum shops. And I began the process of what the taximan in Jamaica would call edification. It's the only country in the Caribbean that a taximan uses the word edification. You got it from Grant Adams to the generations. Yeah. I tell you, edification.
Edification.
You don't. It's a word beyond education and training and instruction. You know the word. It's a lovely English word which the Barbadian taximan has. It struck me the first time. Ordinary taximan use edification. And I began to reflect on it. And I found the origin. You know, Grantley used to talk a lot about edification. And Barbados is a very progressive society.
Yeah.
And
Fabulous.
the veneer. Did you ever believe?
Angela, you hard ears, you know.
She's sneaking that one.
But and that's why I was, I used to write an article every week for the Midweek Nation. When I was there, Harold Hoyt started the Midweek Nation. They had the Friday. He was my very good friend, an extraordinary personality. Loved him very much. And yeah, Carla, I have a rumshot degree. Yeah. From Barbados. I have one in St. Vincent too, you know. I don't Dominoes. Incidentally, it is only one thing I will boast about. I am arguably the best domino player in the world.
What?
Oh.
Arguably. You get Owen Arthur a couple of 6 loves there.
No. Actually, Garfield Sobers and I was supposed to take, who's a very good domino player, was supposed to take on Owen and another partner, but sadly Owen died. We're going to raise money for charity. We had to get I reminded Gary the other day when we were on a program that we still have this domino game to do. I don't know me, I just play domino. I don't think so.
I don't know.
I don't know.
We'll ask her when she comes on.
Yes.
Ask her. So I was writing this column, and I used to go about and do a lot of educational work in Barbados among community groups and the like. And I was critical of aspects of Tom Adams's administration. I came home during the summer of 1979, July. I decided to take a sabbatical to be involved in the struggle, the fight towards the preparations towards independence in St. Vincent in October of that year, October 27th. And then possibly to participate in the elections which took place in December, which I did in fact participate in. And Michael is asking about Gabby.
Gabby. we had Gabby on here a few months back. He claimed to be a really good domino player too. So
that's my friend. I'm going to tell you a story about Gabby in Vincent. So the Barbados Labour Party government, Tom Adams got very, very upset with things that I was writing. And I was in St. Vincent, participated in the elections with a group called the United People's Movement, a left-wing group. We did fairly well. We didn't win any seats, but we got about almost 15% of the vote, which for a start was quite good.
That's significant. Yeah.
Then we had the Union Island uprising just after the December elections. And the Barbados government revoked my work permit. I was persona non grata. So I couldn't go back to Barbados. I must say that when Errol Barrow came back in 1986, well, even before that, I was able to go. But he cleared the record of anything which was there about me, because there was a lot of... Tom said that I was an agent of Cuban and Soviet communism and all kind of rubbish.
And all that kind of stuff.
It's a different time, eh?
Yeah.
Different influences.
Yes.
Well, listen, Prime Minister, you've been so generous with your time with us, and it's been absolutely fabulous. And our audience is lapping it up, and they love it.
An hour has gone?
Yeah, we just over an hour. Just a little bit past an hour.
Just a tad. Just a little bit. Not too far beyond.
Look, I want to bring it home with two things.
Don't tell me we have to continue.
I want to bring it home with two things, because listen, you've got such rich history and some fascinating stuff that we love it. But I want to bring it to two things, which you can tell us a bit about as we come to the end. First one is, how's the country doing now post Soufriere? We did a big show here a few months ago to raise some funds for our friends in St. Vincent, and it would be good to understand how that journey is going.
Well, think of the extant challenges of a small island developing state, a multi-island state. And with the historic legacies of colonialism, native genocide, and the enslavement of African peoples. Then the disorder in global capitalism is impacting upon us. And then COVID. And then the volcanic eruptions of April 2021. Both COVID and the volcanic eruption, they have convulsed and disrupted life, living, and production in every material particular. The challenges are awesome, extremely difficult, monumental they are. But we have been able to hold things together and thrive because of possibilities and limitations, possibilities and strengths despite our limitations and weaknesses. A resilient people, with whom a resolute leadership is in communion. And then we have worked very closely without support through our regional partners, through regional institutions like CDMA, like the Regional Security System, like the Seismic Research Center at the University of West Indies, like the Caribbean Public Health Agency. Without those institutions and CARICOM, and support from our international family of nations, we would not have been able to hold it together. That is to say, our own efforts and conjoined with the regional and the global, we have been able to hold it together and going forward. So tomorrow we start school, but we start school virtually. Because we have had an uptick, significant uptick of in COVID and also in deaths. And that's, but we start back our classes online. We have a good program. I distributed tablets to all the teachers and all the students from age 5 right up to the community college. So, you know, we have a good program for online teaching and learning. It's difficult, but we are holding it together. We are this month we are going to see, hopefully, well, by the 1st of November, we are having Virgin Atlantic is coming making the inaugural flight to Argyle International from London. We are Cal would resume the New York run. So too, Air Canada will resume its run by October the 20th or thereabouts, but we are, and of course, American will still do the Miami, New York run, Argyle, Miami, New York. So we have a lot of investments coming on in tourism. We're doing a lot of infrastructure work. Sandals has started to work on their hotel. They should be ready in February 2023. We have other hotels starting up. We're doing a lot of work in agriculture. We have marijuana, the cannabis, the medicinal cannabis industry. We have in a few weeks' time a 10 million US fishing facility to package conch and lobster and fish. Actually, one of Bush Stewart's sons, the whole rainforest seafoods. So that's
yeah. I was going to ask just one other thing there, because we've looked at the state of the country, but I want to ask about you personally. So back in August this year, you had a very unfortunate incident in public.
When I get my head bust.
Yes, that one.
We didn't want to put it like that.
How are you feeling now? Do you still feel safe among the people?
No, I'm not. Look, that's an episode. I must tell you this. The person who was alleged to have thrown the missile and hit me, when I was in Barbados when I heard about who the person who was arrested and so on. And charged. And I said to the commissioner, when he called me every morning, I get security reports. I said, make sure that this young lady, make sure that this lady, not a young lady, make sure that her security is in order, because well, I noticed the director of public prosecution has discontinued the case against her for the wounding, but they still have a case against her for throwing a missile in the crowd. But I'm okay. I go about my business as per usual.
Yeah.
I just got, when I raised this just now and I saw it came up, it's Eloise, when she buys things, she buys like 2 of 1. She bought this is from a place I think called an institution called Lily Pulitzer. This is it keeps the coconut water quite cool because the metal inside now.
So it's coconut water you're drinking.
I'm drinking coconut water. I don't
Some people were wondering.
I missed that.
I don't drink that. And what do you have in coffee?
No, this is just water. Just water. It's just in a big mug.
Well, this I have. Let me see if I have it here.
Gone again.
There's a friend of mine who died.
Hey.
This is my coffee cup.
Hold it up, man. Let me see it. Bring it up. We can't see it. Hold it up. Yes. Okay.
It's a cobalt blue cup. It has the hand here. I think it was made. This was done in Indonesia. He gave me a box with 6, and Nobody uses it. Well, somebody apparently broke one. I didn't know that. I learned the other day.
Okay.
But every morning I remember him when I have my coffee.
Wow.
Just at lunchtime, the staff bring me my soup in a copio basket, just like I used to take my father lunch when I was a boy into the lands.
Oh, wow.
And every lunchtime when I'm having my soup, put it in a flask. I remember my father.
Fabulous.
You know, I remember my mother every single morning when I come out of the shower and I'm combing my hair, because when I was a boy, even though that I comb my hair, she said, come here. And she was a very plump lady. She's on a short, sit down on a low stool. She said, you sit on the ground. And she will comb over my hair, brush it over, and kiss me and send me off.
Wow.
Every morning. So I have my routines, the simple pleasures of life.
Yes.
Black coffee
Love that.
in a mug by a dear friend, a cup by a dear friend of mine.
Beautiful. That is beautiful. And listen, before we go, Prime Minister, can I just ask you to give a word to the region? There are lots of people across the region watching from north to south, east to west. Give a final word to the region.
I am full of optimism for our Caribbean civilization. Despite all our challenges, the building of our Caribbean civilization, the sustainable development of our region, they constitute a great cause. And great causes have never been achieved by doubtful men and women. We must not be doubtful. We must believe in ourselves. We are not better than anybody else, but nobody is better than us.
Fabulous.
Let us be disciplined. Let us develop our skills. Let us not be atomized individual. Let us value social solidarity and stay together. Remember, we have obligations in addition to rights. Remember our friends. Remember our loved ones, our family, our neighbors, our communities, our nation, our region, and work together with like-minded people across the world. Let us accept the answer to the question posed by the prophet Micah. What does the Lord require of you? And the answer is powerful then and true, and powerful now and true. To do justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with our God.
Wow.
Yeah.
Bring it home, Dre.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Prime Minister. Thank you so much.
God bless you. Much more to talk another time.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for spending an hour with us today.
Thank you.
It's been absolutely amazing. And guys in the audience, thank you so much for being part of the show today and for staying with us.
Thank you very much.
We love having these conversations because this is the way how we tell our own stories. We tell it from our own perspective. We ask questions that, pertain to us. We're not waiting for anyone else from the outside to give us their image of who we are. We can tell tell stories of who we are ourselves. So thank you so much, everyone, for staying with us. Hit share and get as many people to watch it as possible, please.
Thank you very much.
This is a great moment.
I see the Unity Youths from East Kingston have send something.
Yes.
Yes. So many people, guys, put your thanks up. We're gonna put it up, and
Thank you very much.
that's fine. So keep putting it up and thanking Prime Minister Gonsalves for being part of the show today.
Thank you.
It's been absolutely
All
amazing.
the best. Love you.
Yeah.
Thank you. And just like how we do with our legends, we don't ask our leaders to leave. We leave at the same time. So guys, have a fantastic week. Have a fantastic weekend.
Thank you very much.
Until next time.
Thank you.